Thank you so much for meeting with me today, Betsy.
Oh, it's lovely being here with you, Kaylee. Thank
I'm so
you.
excited to learn a bit more about you and your artistic life.
Oh, well, I'm a good one for talking, so I'm sure we'll have a lovely afternoon here.
Yes. So, do you mind telling me a bit about your pathway towards becoming an artist? What made you decide upon this career path?
Well, it's kind of a convoluted story. As a child, I always loved art. In high school, I went through a variety of things that I thought I would like to go to college for, but ultimately, I got my bachelor's in art education. And I did spend several years teaching in the Albany, New York area, primarily elementary school art. And I did love it. And I discovered that besides loving art, I also really loved working with students. At that time, it really was elementary age. And I went on to get my master's in special education. And the market really was more for special education when I was looking for jobs. So I did spend a good number of years of my career in more of them in special education than I did in art. But I always incorporated art activities, cultural activities, visual activities, musical activities, anything at all I could, into, my class lessons. And, it was really a nice bridge between the two. I was involved with art outside, but, when you have a family full-time job that's, not in a studio, then, trying to find time to actually create art becomes a little more difficult. But when you do it, it's extremely special. So I did pursue that and continued my art. Just by sheer space and everything, pastels, which I'd always loved, became something that was very easy to take out. It didn't matter what was going on in the household. The pastels were readily available. So that's what I wound up doing, and it continued. And about 6 years ago now, I did decide to retire a bit earlier than I had originally planned from education, and just pursue my art life, which involves teaching, mentoring, promoting things in the community that revolve around art, supporting art in the community, and my own studio work. So it's really been wonderful, wonderful. So that's the pathway. So I didn't take the direct line. I took the little meandering line. Always knew it was going to be there for me. It was just a matter of right time, right space. And so I'm happy to be able to spend this much time on art.
Yeah, I mean, there's never always one straightforward path to any kind of career. There's always
Correct.
going to be twists and turns, ups and downs.
Yes. Yes. And even with the downs, there's always that up. So
Exactly.
it's, you gotta keep going. And I can remember times when maybe I was lucky if I painted 2 or 3 paintings, a year. And I was just like really happy that I did that. And there was always that feeling as if I could paint more consistently, that I would see more growth in myself and in my artwork. So, that was, I think, the biggest plunge into, taking on the responsibilities of, making a bit of an art business and art career for myself at a late age, was really knowing that ultimately it was going to wind up being, something that I've always wanted to do. And this was just the right time for it.
Yeah, exactly. And you sound like an amazing teacher too. I wish I could have had you as a teacher when I was younger.
Oh, you know what? There is just something absolutely inspiring around being around students of any age. I actually wound up spending a good number of years at the high school level and the middle school level as a teacher. You know, I wound up ultimately a little bit more in administration, but I really, I think for so many young people, while they're, even when they're little, but that middle school age when you're trying to really find your own voice, and maybe I worked with students that had difficulty with your traditional learning, and maybe there's something else in there that makes you feel really good about yourself. Maybe you have difficulty reading, or have difficulty with math, but maybe you just absolutely love to design things. Maybe you're a major doodler. Maybe there's a musical talent hidden in there. So I just always love that, that connection with the students, and helping them try to discover what it was that they were. Everybody's good at something.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to recognize it as being something that you're good at.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming with your career as an art teacher, you probably have experience with multiple mediums besides painting.
Yeah, I did do. I had quite a few years that I worked in printmaking. I really enjoyed woodcut, lino cut, silk screen, also known as serigraphy, etching. They all required a lot more, well, not necessarily the woodcut and lino cut, but, etching and silk screen, you have to have a specific space to be able to, and the equipment that goes with it. So that, outside of college, I really wasn't able to pursue as much, which is why I turned to more towards drawing and painting mediums. But I love doing sculpture, working with plaster and paper mache. And that was something that was easy enough to bring into the classroom too. Learning how to, actually create form with, objects, and, the wire medium and paper mache, and, it was pretty basic. I would certainly never say that I was, a sculptor by any stretch of the imagination, but I do love playing with materials. And even when I paint now, and I do refer to what I do as painting, so a lot of people, question why, if you're working with a pastel stick, why would you say you're painting? But what you're doing is you're really applying it in multiple layers, very much the way a painter will apply multiple layers, also covering the surface in its entirety, as opposed to having the end product look more like a drawing. So what I discovered was that playing with medium underneath my pastel gave me this wonderful textural feeling. So as opposed to painting on a flat surface, and actually a lot of pastel paper really resembles sandpaper. So it holds the pastel marks that you're making. So on these multi-leveled, if you looked at it, crossways instead of straight on, you would see dips and ridges. And, that was like my little ode to going back and playing with, sculptural material, in a very, very kind of, always reminded me of those topographical maps, so that if I looked at something, I could just see those dips and ridges. And it also makes it fun to look at the painting, because a lot of times people can't figure out how on earth I got that there. And it's actually just underneath everything. I don't put it on top. I put the pastel on top. So yes, and I do. I play around a lot with stenciling in my work, acrylic inks. So ultimately you see a pastel painting, but a lot of times what's underneath it is really sneaking through in pieces, everything from, watercolor and gouache and acrylic inks I like a lot, and all this textural. So it's that exploration. And, you know, and that's what I would tell anyone. And I actually tell my current adult students is explore. You don't know what you're going to like until you try new things. And if you're always doing the same thing, then you're not trying new things. So try new things, you know, run off in different directions. And, you know, maybe there's something that really sparks a major fire under you. So you feel like, you know, this is coming from inside of me. So that's my 2 cents on that.
So I know that you've had a very full career as an artist. Do you have any specific highlights that you want to point out that you haven't mentioned yet? Any awards or any events or exhibits you've been in?
Yeah, that I'm constantly painting. So I have lots of paintings. They're not all frameable. You know, I mean, other people might think they're frameable. Other people may agree with me that they're not frameable. But, you know, I paint. And, you know, that's one of the ways that you develop your skills and also your voice, because it's not just the technical thing. It's really that, you know, emotional and internal piece of your art that you want to show through. In the pastel world, my biggest achievement as such was winning Best of Show in the For Pastels Only national art exhibit that was on Cape Cod. And, you know, that really was a fabulous moment, because you don't know ahead of time what awards you've won. So to win that top award for a highly competitive juried exhibit was thrilling. I'm signature member for the Pastel Society of Cape Cod and the Connecticut Pastel Society. And that means that you've presented a portfolio of art and your accomplishments to a panel, and, you know, they you know, accept your work in terms of assigning you the designation of a signature member, which is you know, one of the highest standards that you can get in most pastel groups. And I am, you know, accomplishment wise, I really think it would be, I mean, those are things people see. They see, you know, I can sign those little letters after my name, and they see that, you know, I, you know, have won, you know, multiple awards or been in, you know, multiple juried shows. But I think the biggest accomplishment, truthfully, was 6 years ago when I said, I really need to do this, and I need to, you know, you're cranking on in years here. You know, I have really got to devote myself to my art. And I think knowing that it was, you know, time to walk away from a guaranteed salary and, you know, a profession that I loved, to really go off and do this was an accomplishment. I'm so glad I took that step. So glad I took that step. You know, it's really no looking back. But I'm one of these people that, you know, I would never want to change anything in my past, because I would not want it to interfere with where I wound up. So I'm, you know, happy with everything I've done. May not all have been wonderful, but you know, it all gets you to a spot in your life.
That's a really positive outlook you have. I'm jealous of that.
Oh, well, I can't honestly say I always had that attitude. You know, I mean, I think, you know, you go through each of those decades, you know, when you hit that, you know, that 60-year-old mark, it's kind of like, you know, this is make it or break it here. Time to start painting. So
well, we're happy that you made that decision and joined us here for your painting.
Thank you, Kaylee. That's sweet.
So, I know that you said that you had won that national art show that was hosted on Cape Cod. Do you have any other things that you've done to support the creative economy on Cape Cod?
Yeah, and that, the economy on Cape Cod the on Cape Cod for the arts is wonderful, because I think what happens is you wind up, you're surrounded by other artists. You're surrounded by other artists of all different skill levels and medium levels, and the topics people paint, the themes that people are painting. I mean, it's just so diverse that there's some place in there that everybody kind of finds their little niche. And but I am also a firm believer in, artists love art. Okay, so part of what me as an artist, my goal is to help, not help, but to bring art to other people. Okay, so that other people can see art that maybe wouldn't normally see art. So I do a lot of plein air painting. I'm out there. I do not mind people talking to me when I'm out there painting. I do mind if people are like art. I mean, sometimes you turn around like somebody's like on your shoulder. That's a little bit much, but I love people, asking me about my materials, and, having a short chat, and that is one way of, exposing people to art. For a few years now, not 2000, the 2020 show was canceled, but I also curate one show a year for the Barnstable Probate Court, and it is, art in public places, and it's bringing art to the family court hallway, so that when people are sitting there waiting for their court appearance, that they have beautiful art to look at. Mentoring the high school students, opening up the world of art to them, taking them some of the places that I go, whether it's the photographers or the, going to look for frames, or, art supplies, art shows, and then just generally supporting the art community in terms of being involved. I'm involved with Falmouth Arts Center, and I am the exhibition committee chair there. I also am on the plein air painting committee for the Cape Cod Art Center. And besides teaching at Falmouth Art Center, I also teach at the Cultural Center. And then it's the various, I am a little more selective on what I donate my paintings to. And that partly is because of the amount of times you're asked to donate. But there are a few things that are special to me. And I always donate to the Cahoon Museum for their show in the summer. And then I do provide a donation to the ALS Family Charitable Foundation in Bourne. And I give a percentage of what I earn from my studio sales, memory of both my mother and my cousin, who both died of ALS. So, that's kind of my way again of, creating that path. So art, the art economy on art, on the Cape, or truthfully anywhere, it's not just people buying art, but people seeing art. And I think that's important.
Definitely, it really is. I mean, all the work you do with art, it doesn't always have to be, like you said, selling. You're opening people's eyes to art, introduce them to a new way of life, and even helping the students, like you said, with mentoring. It also brings them closer to the creative economy on Cape Cod that they can then also contribute
Absolutely. To. Because let's say it's a two-way street, the economy. We make it and we want somebody else to buy it, so and part of that chain there really involves being visible, but your art being visible, and really getting involved with the community. So I think it kind of goes hand in hand.
And it's really wonderful to hear that you donate to the ALS in honor of your mother.
Yes, yeah, it is. It's a nice way. Well, my parents were very supportive of my art. And yeah, it is. It's wonderful to know that, the money's going towards an organization that we're just, wonderful for, my mother, my cousin, who passed away from ALS is from Albany, New York. And, or area, I should say, so again, it's another way of taking, my earnings and putting them forward for something else.
It's just really beautiful to see.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to building artist skills, do you feel that there are any soft skills such as self-confidence or organizational skills that you feel are important towards having a career as an artist?
I think different artists are going to have different answers for this depending on their own temperament. But I think, knowing many artists, students that I have, and I say the word students because they take my classes, but it does not mean that, their level of artwork is wonderful. I think self-confidence slows people down. And I know it did for me when I was younger, because I always thought things weren't perfect. I had to do things better. Oh, their work's better than mine, or, I'm not quite ready yet. And I think self-confidence can, or lack of self-confidence can thwart people's movement forward. And that's why I promote just try things, try, and it's like plein air painting, get out there and try it. Okay. You may like it, you might not like it. The reality of it is you're getting out and you're trying something new. So, I do know it took me a while to build up my self-confidence, because, you feel as if your art is an extension of you. And, not everyone's going to like all types of art. So the people that like my style and the medium I work and the subjects that I paint with, I'm grateful for. It does not bother me that other people may not like it, because I don't like all types of art. So why should everybody else? I do think organization, if for me, as the change to making this more of a art business sounds like I'm business-like, but I'm clearly not. But I think having good organizational skills, if in fact you do plan on entering shows, selling your artwork, it does really help. And of course, there's all different levels of that. You can keep it pretty basic, or you can get super involved. But, yes, but I would say lack of self-confidence stops people. Stop worrying about what other people think. And realize that you can do it. It's not going to look like everybody else's artwork, and you don't want it to. I mean, when I'm teaching, I don't want people to paint like me. I want them to paint the way they want to, with some of the skills that I'm teaching them. And then organize yourself. I'm a great one. Look at the mess behind me. But I do know where everything is. And we're not looking at the rest of the studio. So organization may not be the physical items, but it's really that organization of time. I'm really big on the organization of time. Make the time. Truthfully, even when the kids were little, even if I wasn't doing very much, I was drawing, or I was reading, or I was doing something, even if it was a little bit every day, or maybe not even every day, I should say every week. Just organize your time so you can just shove in whatever it is. It's 15 minutes a week. Great. Take it.
I think that is a really important step. I know so many people who love art, but they're so busy with their lives, they never put any time to it, because when they're able to sit down, they're like, oh, I only have an hour. Like, I want more time than this.
Yeah, it is true. And a couple of ways you can go about that is break up what you want to do into smaller segments. Focus on maybe smaller pieces of art, focus on your, you know, I do a lot of preliminary sketches and color studies, you know, maybe not for everything, but, you know, even just doing some drawing is a great way to, you know, keep your skills honed, help you move in a new direction. But yeah, it's hard. And then a lot of times people don't realize it, which is why I got very little done at the end of a workday. Art is very cerebral. You have to spend a lot of energy thinking. I mean, it's not like you're just going in and slapping things around. I mean, maybe you are if you're just loosening yourself up or it's your style, whatever, but there's still a cerebral part of it, which means that you're really thinking. And you're tired when you get finished after a long session. So end of the day doesn't really cut it for some people. They're too tired.
Exactly, yeah. In terms of the artworks program, what does it mean to you to be a mentor?
Well, you know, it kind of captures a lot of those pieces, you know, of my life going back, you know, when I was really working directly with students. And I just enjoy that more personal one-on-one situation where you're guiding a student towards their own art discovery. Maybe they're trying new things. Maybe they have an idea of what it is that they actually want to do, and you're just really helping them with more skill levels. Maybe you're helping them explore more about what kind of art they want to create, what kind of art do they like, you know, exposing them to maybe art or techniques or materials that they haven't tried before. So I love the connection. You know, two of my past mentees have stayed in touch. They're both in college for art, and it's really wonderful to get a text every once in a while, you know, with something, you know, a photo of something that they've painted or a comment. You know, clearly not that you would expect, you know, or when you mentor that, you know, people keep in touch. So that's not an expectation, but I must admit it is really nice to know that there was some sort of connection that, you know, some of the students do stay in touch, which is nice.
Exactly. And I'm sure that working virtually hasn't been the best, but I'm still happy that it seemed like you had a good experience this last year.
Yes, the virtual world, it opened up in many different ways. You know, for some people, it really was far more stressful than it was a comfort. For me, it was a connection. And, you know, the virtual world, you know, overall for me, Falmouth Arts Center, Laura Reckford, who is the director down there, I mean, it was, you know, no time at all after, you know, we were in our forced isolation there for a while, that she asked who wants to continue teaching on Zoom. And I figured, oh, I'll give it a try. So, you know, for the last year, I've been teaching twice a week, 2 different classes, one for Falmouth Arts Center and one for the Cultural Center via Zoom. And that's actually what I'll be doing in another hour and 15 minutes. So when it came for the artworks, when, you know, they gave the option of live or Zoom, and clearly I was not in a position where I felt comfortable, you know, in any sort of a public situation last autumn. So it really worked out really well to be able to just slide things over for my mentee. And, you know, I set up an app account for my classes. So I set up a separate board for my mentee so we could connect through that during the week if needed, or else just to put reminders of what, you know, we did in our sessions. So it wasn't the same, I must admit. It's that personal getting to know you part was still did happen, but there's something about the barrier between the screen and who's on the other side. So you have to work a little bit harder to set up connections. And I find even in my adult classes, it's worked out really nice. People have, created a nice community online. And now we're getting to see one another. Some of these people I've never met that I've been teaching. So it's really, really fun. But so it does serve a purpose. Imagine weather's not good. What can you do? You can still meet. You can meet via Zoom. So, when this whole COVID, is behind us, we're going to have another medium where we can connect. And, I like that part too. Like that part a lot.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And even for some people who didn't have their license and couldn't drive, the virtual was their first pick because they didn't have reliable transportation,
Right.
or the mentor they really wanted to mentor with lived, 40 minutes away, and they were like, I'm not going to drive that after school. Like, I can't do that. That's too long a drive.
Exactly. That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that, but that is very true, because the mentees I've had in the past have all been more local to where I live, and some of them drove, and some not. But that's true. It really, that connection of trying to meet someplace didn't exist. All we had to do was show up on our laptop screen.
Exactly. Like, it has its pros and its cons.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's the flexibility. I think what's happened is, and I'm foreseeing this clearly, even artworks and my classes, is that it will give people options.
Mm-hmm.
I can't come to class. Can I Zoom record the class? I can do that. That's not a problem. It doesn't matter where I am. I can just record the class. So that piece there, I think, has made it far more accessible to people's schedules. And like you said, with the high school students, if they don't drive, it is difficult to, sometimes make the connections.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking of mentoring, have you been inspired by any mentors of your own in the past?
Yes, I have. I can go way back to my very first story is of, and I won't bore you with lots of stories, but I do have to mention my high school art teacher was an amazing woman, and I think I took a lot of the way she treated her students and the way she taught with me when I went to college. And I think that, I know that existed through my career too. And it was Albany High School. It was Joyce Keenan. And quite nicely, several years ago, with this social media, somebody from high school mentions the teacher. So I reconnected with her, which is just lovely. All those years ago. So, I think I graduated in 1973. So she was definitely formidable in my both my career as an art teacher, but also in my art. And great for exploring and trying new things, and just letting you come down and paint. If you had, I don't know if you actually can still do that anymore, but she was great. And then fast forwarding to moving to the Cape, one of my very first instructors in the world of pastel was Rosalie Nadeau, and she absolutely opened up my eyes to actually what you can actually do with pastels, and as opposed to using it as a coloring stick. So those are the two people that stand out. Truthfully, there are many more, just in terms of people that supported your art. Miscellaneous instructors that I took from, whether it was this past year Zoom or whether it was live. So I would say that, those are the two that were pivotal moments in my life that made a difference.
Well, I'm happy that you have them to help guide you along this path.
Yes, I know it is. It's lovely. And Rosie is also a big plein air painter, which was wonderful. I did a lot of, hiking and backpacking, and the idea of being able to stand outside and paint for me was just like, oh wow, I should have done this 30 years ago.
If you could give one piece of advice for any young artist out there thinking about pursuing a career in the arts, what would it be?
Pardon me?
I know it's hard to pick one piece of advice.
Yes, yeah, that's true. It is hard. Considering I'll try to think of something I haven't actually already mentioned now. I would, if someone was seriously interested in pursuing art as a career, I would tell them to do it, and I would tell them to get out there and meet artists, talk to artists, all different sorts. Don't pigeonhole yourself into, at age 17 or 18, that this is what you're going to be. And it may wind up who you're going to be, but along the way, have a look and see what else there is. So I think that would be my biggest advice. Absolutely a wonderful path to go. And talk to the people that are, doing it as a full-time career. Talk to people that are doing it in their spare time. Talk to people that have studios in their homes, people who have studios, people who paint in their kitchen. Find out what people do. Because I think that along with that will come self-confidence, because not everybody has, like the perfect thing that we see in magazines and books. We have that little corner of a bedroom that we paint in, or, the basement. And some people make just enough money to buy canvases or pastels sticks. Other people live on it, make a wonderful living. So talk to a lot of people and get their suggestions, advice. That's it. And go for it.
That's some great advice, Betsy. You've given a lot of great advice so far in this interview.
Oh, thank you, Kaylee.
So thank you again so much for talking with me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of young artists out there will also appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's wonderful. Really nice to chat.
Yeah, it was nice to get to talk to you.
Yes, and thank you again for everything that you do for the Artworks program. It really is a absolutely wonderful program. I am so glad that I'm part of it. It's really it keeps me in touch with what's going on with the high school students. What are they learning in school, and what can I offer them that makes a difference, or not?
Thank you for working so hard for the Artworks program.
Yes, absolutely.
It wouldn't exist without the mentors.
Well, yes, but this is it. It's all about giving back, isn't it?
Exactly.
Exactly. Most of us wouldn't be here if somewhere along the line somebody else hadn't, opened up a door for us, or a window onto how things will look. So it's, yeah, definitely worth it.